All right, so in brief, demonstration from the class, video from the class demonstration. What we have here is the drawing begun. It's an eraser drawing, and using erasers, what we're doing is we've darkened the entire surface of the paper with a stick of charcoal. And I'll do a quick, just a spot to help figure that out, what it looks like, and do something like this. And we'll take a paper towel or a rag and rub that into the surface a little bit, build it up so that it fills into a dark black on the surface. And this particular paper doesn't quite take it that deeply, but rub it in so that it creates a dark patch. And then what we're doing is using pink pearl eraser, a white eraser. I got a piece of gum, I got a piece of kneaded eraser, and I've got a pencil, charcoal pencil in particular. And what we're going to do then is to just begin erasing and sort of work out basic shapes like so, right? Okay, and I'm going to let it feather in the space a little bit. Kind of scrub. Some papers will take this abuse better than others. What I have found is that Lennox, which is what I'm working on, takes a lot of abuse. Its tooth isn't very dense, so it's a little harder to work with the eraser. But what we're doing is just drawing the brick. There's a surprise, using erasers. But what we're drawing is the highlights rather than the shadows. All right? So as we work this thing, we're creating some textural effects, but we're using the eraser to remove dark rather than to add it. Essentially, we're drawing the light in rather than hiding the light or taking it away to create a shadow. So just using different erasers, and each eraser makes a slightly different mark. And if you have to go back into quote-unquote erase, what you can do is take that same piece of charcoal and come back and put the darkness back in and draw over that surface again. Now you're not going to get the white all the way out. It's going to always leave you with something that's a little darker. But what we're going to see here is something that looks like this. I'm using the pencil really to sharpen the edges on some of this, because the eraser is sort of blunt, right? So I can create a little bit of sharpness at an edge on occasion, and makes for a much more interesting and intriguing image, a crisper drawing, if you will. few more edges here to pull in. A few more cracks on the surface. A couple of pit marks. And it starts looking like the brick pretty quickly here. And up top we get some dents and recesses and chip marks going here. And that's about it right there. And you kind of get an idea for how this technique now works. It's really pretty straightforward. When you're done, in order to keep from making a mess, what you really want to do is use a little bit of spray fix to ensure that thing doesn't bleed or blur on you in any way. Make sure that you don't shed charcoal all over your house. Now, this is the one thing I do want to caution you on, is this material is quite messy. Don't do this over a white carpet. You want to clean it up, you got to use something that cleans up dust. So a good vacuum cleaner is very helpful, and anything that's like a dust rag with end dust helps a lot more than getting water on anything. As I spray this, it's going to get dark. As it dries, it will lighten up again, and I think that's part of what you need to understand. The spray fix is when it dries will lighten up. Okay, so that's the first of the two processes called an eraser drawing. Obviously, when we go back to other drawing processes, using the eraser will be managed in a much different fashion, won't it? All right, the second process is much more straightforward, but we're still drawing the highlights. All right. In this case, what we're using is a little soft pastel, white pastel, and a white charcoal or chalk pencil. And essentially, we're just going to keep drawing the brick here. And this chalk leaves a mark very, very easily. Don't get aggressive with it. It takes almost no pressure to make the mark. Okay. So this is where I just barely lay this chalk down, it leaves a mark. Now, again, the hard part of doing this drawing is really just remembering that you're drawing the light and not the shadow. So, and I'm not going to finish the brick. I'm just going to try and get her going here enough to give you a sample of what's possible with this process, right? And of course, you could erase into it, and you could draw a little bit of linear mark into it to crispen up the edge with this pencil. Okay. And come back and take a piece of charcoal. What I can tell you is if you try to erase this, it's going to make a big gray smudge mark, which is not a bad thing. You just know that that's what's going to happen. If you're trying to clean up an edge, the eraser does not really help you much. However, if I'm trying to separate those two edges, boy, a sharp piece of charcoal pencil, man, that gets something done real quick, right? Okay. And there we go. Okay, so that's how we manage it. And once again, if I spray this, it's going to scare you because it turns everything really dark, like you ruined your drawing, when in fact, you just preserved it. So there it is.